364 days after Penn State beat Auburn in a thriller, Auburn gets its chance at revenge, this time right at home at Jordan-Hare. And just like last season, both teams are unbeaten and looking for a statement win. Both teams began this season unranked, but the Nittany Lions used a thrilling victory over Purdue to help vault them into the top 25. And sixth-year senior Sean Clifford has the offense humming.
I want to win games.
On the other side, Auburn's head coach Brian Harsin almost lost his job after one season as head coach. And the jury is still out despite a 2-0 start. The Tigers needed a second-half comeback on Saturday just to fend off 24-point underdog San Jose State. But a win in a big spot against a ranked team could turn everything around.
They just keep getting better. The teams that we play, we know Penn State. We know they're a good football team.
It's two huge college football brands from the two best conferences in the country. Auburn, Penn State, Saturday on CBS.
It is going to be a great one. We have Josh, Pate, Bryant McFadden. I swear they're working in Auburn from our own Verbo vacation home. We're going to get to the game here in a second. But guys, I mean, I don't know if that's like a lake behind you. Josh, I guess we'll start with you because you got your sunnies on. What have you guys been up to the past 24 hours?
Well, there are jet skis down here that BMAC and I saw about 5 milliseconds after we arrived, and we don't have the keys because they've kept them from us. That is a lake. It's not a green screen. This is real nature that we're in here. We're just in the elements here in central Alabama. But a lot of folks are excited about the game. We're excited because we get to be here until the game. So it's been fun down here.
No question. I mean, I love it. I feel like I'm at home, actually. The house is amazing. We're here on the patio. You see the view. Actually, Amanda, when you walk into the house, you actually see the lake. So that's one of the first things you see, not to mention the bedrooms are awesome. Ooh.
I didn't get any invite. Like I need some sweet tea or something with y'all there on that porch, and we just watch the game from there. So let's talk a little football here. Let's talk about Penn State at Auburn. The home field we get to anticipate tomorrow, brought to you by Verbo. It's the first time Penn State has been to SEC country in more than 10 years. Not just that, Penn State, the first Big Ten team to play at Jordan-Hare. Jordan-Hare, if you were Chris Haskell and those who live down there. BMAC, what can we expect from this atmosphere tomorrow?
It's going to be electric, similar to what we saw last year when Auburn visited Penn State. You remember how chaotic it was. It was very, very loud. It was disruptive in regards to communication for Auburn being the road team. So I expect similar things in regards with Penn State coming down here. The fans, they're fired up. Yesterday we had an opportunity to drive through campus. I mean, people are fired up. There's something about college football, especially in the South. It hits different than any other place in the country. So this is going to be like a playoff atmosphere in regards to inside the stadium, in regards to both teams trying to have a signature win, to say the least, early in the year.
All right, let's go into the quarterbacks here. Josh, I want to start with you because we got an interesting quarterback situation when it comes to both teams. Sean Clifford for Penn State, TJ Finley for Auburn. But on the Penn State side, you got Drew Aller waiting in the wings. On the Auburn side, they've been splitting time with Robbie Ashford up until this point. What can we expect from these quarterbacks tomorrow, Josh?
I wish I could tell you, and I think those coaching staffs wish they could tell you. When we do late kick, I have some Penn State kids on the production staff. All of them want to see Drew Aller. You know, he's a true freshman, 5-star variety. He's the first one that they've had, BMAC, that caliber come in there in quite a while. Mm-hmm. Everyone who talks about Penn State, they say they play pretty good defense. Up until last year, they can run the ball pretty good, but they never have that dynamic presence at quarterback. Sean Clifford's like 40 years old, so people look at him and say, hey, we're going to get what we're going to get. We want to see that new kid. It's easy to say. It's a whole lot harder to pull the trigger when you're the actual head coach, and you have to pay, sometimes with your salary, for making those decisions. But on the Auburn side, I'm fully convinced they brought Zach Calzada in here via the transfer market to win this job, and he just didn't win it.
No question.
And so now it's Robbie Ashford has seen some time. TJ Finley's been the starter. I look at them last week, and I look at them really the first 2 weeks. I don't know if they're going to win a game tomorrow, BMAC. I know that there got to be other elements. There got to be other facets to this offense that we'll see. It's got to start at the quarterback position, but there's got to be some layering to that offense that we haven't seen yet this year.
I agree. The slow start last week was something that was surprising to everyone who watched that ball game. Then, of course, we saw more of a sense of urgency in the second half that prevailed Auburn in winning that ball game. but they've been so generic in throwing the football. I mean, roughly averaging around 190 yards through the air. That's horrible. Those are JV-like numbers if you're talking about high school football. So they have to find a way to throw the football. We all know the running game is going to be there, led by Tank Bigsby, but they got to find a way to make things happen with whoever the quarterback will be. I think TJ Finley probably will get the start. And if you're an Auburn fan, you hope to see him in the ball game the entire time, because that would tell all of us they're doing some positive things throwing the football. But if you start to see a musical chairs at the quarterback position, something is not going right for Auburn. I don't know if that's something that you would like to see.
B-Mac, talk to us about the run game. Let's stick with the offense here. I promise we'll get to the defense in a second. Nick Singletary has given this Penn State offense a huge boost here on the other side. You have Bigsby and Hunter. Who's going to rely maybe on that run game a little bit more, or what do you expect from the run game from each of these teams?
Well, I think both teams would find a way to get the ground and pound attack going. I think that's the best way to get positive things from your quarterback. But I think Auburn will rely on the ground game more so than Auburn, because yet and still Sean Clifford has been more of an emotional roller coaster at the quarterback position. So far this year, he's been playing pretty sound football, more consistent than what Auburn has to say. So I think understanding and knowing what's the best thing for Auburn, you got to find a way to get the ground game going, led by Tank. Tank is one of the best running backs in the conference, and looking at what he's been able to do so far, almost 200 yards on the ground, 3 rushing touchdowns. He's a guy that can get everything going for the offense. I mean, he's the guy that has like the transmission for your engine. I mean, if he's running, the engine will be running well as well. So I think Auburn has to get the ground game going more so than Penn State.
Pate State, what do you think about this run game?
It definitely looks like Auburn's got to run the ball to win. It definitely looks like Penn State's got to run the ball to win. What I'm interested in is it done in the traditional fashion? You know, like, for example, I think there'll be a lot of leverage placed on the defensive backs for Penn State, because as good as that Auburn backfield is, and you talked about Tank Bigsby, Jacaz Hunter's back there, just running the thing between the tackles 35 times is probably not in the cards for them. And so, you know, whether it's working the perimeter, whether it's really quick hitting shots to the wide receivers that forces young defensive backs to tackle, that kind of is an extension from the ground game, but it's also something that I think is pretty imperative for Auburn. For Penn State, I don't think people fully appreciate Nick Singleton last week went for something like 170, 180 yards. It's the first individual game 100-yard rusher they've had since 2020. It's been a long time since they've been able to have an individual do at Penn State what the hallmark of Penn State football has been. So, I mean, he did it against Ohio. He struggled statistically against Purdue in week 1. If neither of these ground games takes over, anyone who snapped up that under 49 early in the week, and BMAC, I am sitting on that ticket, would be in a very good position.
We'll talk about the total here in a second. Let's go through the defense really quickly, an X factor for each team. But let's start with Penn State. And Josh, we'll start with you.
Yeah, it goes back to what I just talked about. The defensive front for Penn State, obvious. Linebacker core for Penn State, obvious. I really think that if you look at Auburn and the two things that they need to stress in this game, number one, a lot more tempo and a lot more variety in the passing game. But I don't think they trust any quarterback on their offense, really, to just consistently throw the ball over the middle of the field. And I don't think that's what they're going to ask them to do. But if you want to manufacture some yards after catch, I really think quick shots on the perimeter and maybe taking your chances, forcing their DBs to tackle your skill guys, that's probably where it is. And that's why I look at Joey Porter and I look at the corners really in totality with Penn State. I think that will be a huge deciding factor in this game.
No question. Shout out to Joey Porter Jr., by the way. His dad will be at the game, so they're all fired up. So me personally, in regards to the X factor with Penn State's defense, you talked about the lack of trust from Auburn's passing game. So they're going to try to run the football. And with that being said, Curtis Jacob, the leading tackler for Penn State's defense, one of the best linebackers they have from their team, he has to be a guy that's going to cause a lot of chaos, not just on first and second down, but third down opportunities as well, because at some point in time, you better believe they're going to dial up some heat and might become very, very aggressive in trying to throw the football. And Jacob has a guy, he has the ability not just to be a terror in regards to tackling, but also putting pressure on opposing quarterbacks. So I think he has to be able to dictate this game from the defensive side for Penn State, especially knowing how much Auburn will rely on their ground and pound attack.
Guys, you look very relaxed. So we appreciate it. I'll let you guys go relax a little bit more, getting ready for the game tomorrow. I know you'll be working throughout the day today and tomorrow. Have fun down there in Auburn. Get on those jet skis. Feel free to send us a video of that there. Penn State at Auburn. Remember, Penn State won last year. It was a whiteout for them. Auburn is doing an orange out. Catch it Saturday afternoon, 3:30 Eastern on CBS and Paramount Plus. Want to talk to you about some podcasts we got. If you didn't know, BMAC, along with his cousin there, Patrick Peterson, they have a great podcast together called All Things Covered. Make sure to download and follow. Talking about the Vikings at Eagles Monday Night Football. Both teams coming off a Week 1 win. And then Late Kick with Josh Pate. Josh Pate is there in Auburn broadcasting live. Pate State followers didn't even announce the location of where he was broadcasting yesterday. They still found him. Make sure to watch on YouTube. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.